and welcome to ETAuto and to another very special episode of Target Net Zero, a series of discussions with industry leaders where we not only take stock of where the auto industry has progressed in terms of its journey towards carbon neutrality, but also discuss about what are the ways, what are the steps that industry players are taking or plans to take to reach that goal at a faster rate. Today, our guest is Mr. C.V. Raman, who is the Chief Technology Officer and also the Senior Executive Director Engineering at Maruti Suzuki India, which most of us know. And in case any of our overseas viewers is not aware, Maruti Suzuki is India's largest car maker, passenger vehicle maker, who leads the market by a huge margin. So Raman-san, thank you for joining us on the show.
Yeah, greetings, Sumanta-san. Thank you very much for having me here today. It's a pleasure always to talk to you. Look forward to this conversation.
Great. Same here, Raman-san, and always a pleasure. And to begin our discussion, Raman-san, tell us in terms of the progression of the Indian automotive industry, particularly the PV industry towards carbon neutrality. Where do we stand independently as a market, and also in the context of the global industry, and also if you look at the global environmental challenges that we are facing?
Yeah, so today we are, talking in the, backdrop. Just recently, the Glasgow COP26 event was held, and where the Conference of Parties had were discussing regarding the GWP, the global greenhouse gas reduction, and the target, of course, is 1.5 degrees, and how to reach that, in the second half of the century has been the talk which has been there. And India has its own, INDCs which are there, which was based on the 2005 target. We had a reduction of about, plan was earlier was 20 to 25% based on the 2005 base as per the Copenhagen Accord. And then as per the Paris Agreement, by 2030, we are supposed to reduce the emission intensity by 30 to 35%. Now it's been talked about, the Prime Minister has said 45%. And therefore, I think this is the backdrop on which we are all talking about, and this is something which we are looking at. And we believe that there are many interventions which India is doing, and the auto industry is also as part of that. But having said that, I think it's important to understand where transport sector, is today. And transport is at about 13% of the overall, India emissions as far as the CO2 is concerned. And if you look at from the 13%, the commercial vehicles is about 5.1%, the passenger vehicles is about 2.3%, two-wheelers about 2.2%. So this is where we stand as far as this is concerned. So also from a vehicle perspective, I think Indian industry has been continuously working. And if you look at the CO2 of the vehicles in say 2005 as the base year, when we all talk about 54 gram per kilometer was the base. And today we are in 2020, we are at about 121 grams, which is roughly about 21% reduction as far as CO2 is concerned, as far as the vehicles is concerned. So this is, I think, a significant reduction which we are seeing. And as you already are aware, CAFE phase 1 has already kicked in 2017, 130 grams. And today we are at 121. And we are supposed to reach by 2022 April, which is not very far off. We are supposed to reach 113 gram per kilometer as a fleet average. So I think they are very, very tough targets which we are all working towards. And this is how I see that, Indian industry, the auto industry is, participating in this effort towards reduction of the CO2.
also the upcoming phase 2 of BS6, the RDE norms kicking in. What kind of an impact that could also make on the overall green quotient of the Indian mobility industry, let's say?
Obviously, I think, if you look at from that perspective, there is a lot of work which is being done towards that. The green quotient is going to be there. And if I speak from a Maruti Suzuki perspective, we are looking at various interventions. We are looking at how do we improve the IC engine technology, which is today the predominant powertrain in India. The second is how can we, look at hybridization and electrification of the fleet. Third is how do we look at alternate fuels. And fourth, and which is inherent work every auto industry automaker has to do, is to look at how to look at vehicle side improvements, look at how to improve the aerodynamics, reduce the weight, improve the rolling resistance. And so these are some of the things which we have to continuously work. And you can see that different automakers have a different direction in which they are participating in this effort.
And to me, it appears that Maruti Suzuki is not yet really convinced about the viability of electric vehicles in the Indian market as of date. But therefore, you are trying to kind of really, you are making efforts to, as you mentioned, to enhance the make the IC engine play to its full potential. So therefore, from that perspective, I just want to understand how far can we stretch it in terms of, you talked about hybridization, even you have adopted the CNG in a very strong way. So on that part, can you throw some more light on what are the interventions, what are the engineering steps that you are taking to kind of enhance the life, if I may call it, of the IC engine, at least in the Maruti Suzuki portfolio?
I think we need to get it into the right perspective as far as India is concerned. And, this is something which is very important to understand, that where is the mobility as far as India is concerned. And if you look at from various studies of India, which are saying that roughly about 3% of the population is traveling by four-wheelers. Roughly about 10 to 12% is traveling by two-wheelers, which is a large component. And similar percentage is about 12% is for the the bicycles, and the public transport is roughly about 15 or 16%. So I think this is how India moves today as a mobility, and so therefore there is a large component of affordability which is built around this which is important from an Indian context. I think that is very important to understand. The second thing is that from an energy security perspective, if you look at the utilization of the crude or the consumption of gasoline, if you look at 65% of the gasoline which is being consumed is consumed by two-wheelers, and about 35% is roughly by four-wheelers. So this is how the energy mix is today. Everyone has to improve that. India has a very ambitious target of reaching 30% of the four-wheeler and 100% of the two-wheeler towards electrification, full EV vehicles, and that's the NITI Aayog and the Government of India's target, which was envisaged some time back. Even if we look at from that perspective that we need to reach that, and we all need to work towards that, which we all are doing. The fact of the matter is that the balanced portion of the 60 to 70% of the vehicles still will be in some form of an ICE vehicle. Now, it's important that that needs to become improved, and that's how we look at it. That there is an effort which we need to make towards improving that, and we also need to look at how can we make mobility overall affordable, so that there is a shift of the bicycle, person who's traveling on a bicycle to move to a two-wheeler, and a two-wheeler person to move to a four-wheeler. And so looking at from that perspective, the affordable mobility is very, very important. And so various interventions which we believe are required for propagating that is important. So we are looking at how do we improve the ICE engine itself. We are trying to improve. Every percent is important for us. Even 1%, 2%, 3%. How can we improve the efficiency of that is important.
Even to stretch the the IC engines performance in the context of making it even more optimal in terms of cleaner mobility, technology intervention is very critical, and technology comes at a cost.
Absolutely.
And therefore, again, it may have a bearing on the affordability issue. So how do you balance that?
Absolutely, and that's what is important. And recently, if you see that we have launched the K10C engine in the new Celerio. Before that, we had launched the similar kind of improvement in the Swift and the Desire in the 1.2 liter, where we have moved towards dual injector, higher compression ratios, reducing the friction, cooled EGR. And these are some of the interventions which we have done, which have improved the fuel efficiency. And this is, if you see fuel efficiency over the years, we have improved. In 2010, the 1.2 liter engine was giving a fuel efficiency of roughly about 17.9 kilometer per liter. And today, in 2020, we are talking about roughly about 23.6 kilometer per liter. And that's the kind of improvement which we are trying to see and do in the IC engine itself. That's one. The second is that some level of electrification and hybridization. So if you see in the K10C or the K12N engine which we have got, we have an idle start stop. That also contributes to some level of improvement savings and fuel efficiency. In the higher segment on the 1.5 liter, we have the the mild hybrid or the smart hybrid technology, which we call it, where we are also getting a fuel efficiency improvements. There we are able to get not just start stop, but also regeneration, as well as giving some kind of an assist to the customer. So that's an important aspect which we believe. And going forward, you would see maybe strong hybrid or a full electric EV going forward. The third intervention is about alternate fuel. And in the last 15 years, we have improved our penetration of the CNG. Earlier, we used to do a refit in the factory. Now we are actually producing the CNG vehicles on the line, where the engine is also actually built for CNG application, for durability,
optimized
and
mainly for CNG application.
Yeah, reliability purposes, and also building the entire vehicle online. And so we are increasing our CNG reach, and the Government of India has a very ambitious target of a gas-based mobility too, apart from the electrification. And so we are participating in that. There is an increase in the CNG stations, supposedly to about 10,000 numbers by 2028, 2029. We are working with the government towards that, and we are seeing how we can, increase the penetration of the CNG vehicles. Already, the CNG stations have increased to 2,500, and the reach is increasing. As you see, the reach is increasing, the penetration is increasing, and we are actually increasing the production of our CNG, products. We already have 7 models today, which we are where we have this CNG factory fit, and you will see more of that coming from Maruti Suzuki. And of course, our constant endeavor is to reduce weight, and that's every engineer is given a target of reducing the weight. Every part, whether it is so lightweighting or improving the strength, using high tensile steel, thereby improving the rigidity, but reducing a little weight, is something which we always work towards. So all of these interventions, in a way, improve the fuel efficiency.
And you said 7 of your models are also offer the CNG variant. Are you looking at to have a CNG variant across your portfolio?
Definitely, we'll be looking at that, and as the as you will see going forward, you will see more vehicles being adapted with CNG.
Okay, talking about the scope of alternative fuels, I think as of date, CNG is the best bet. But there's also a growing discussion around others like ethanol and even flex fuels. I mean, the Union Minister, Mr. Gadkari, had mentioned about this intention of making flex fuel technology mandatory for the passenger vehicles. From the industry perspective, how feasible is it? And What are the advantages and what are the hurdles you think for the adoption of the flex fuel technology at the industry level?
So before I come to flex fuel and ethanol, I think one more important aspect which we need to consider for the CNG would be for reduction of the carbon intensity would be to move towards bio CNG. And there is a huge the government of India is giving a strong push towards this bio CNG. This is being made from waste, and that is something which we believe is going to be very important. The government has a Satark scheme, and there is a huge potential, we believe. And if you look at purely from a carbon intensity perspective, if you use bio CNG, actually it is carbon negative. Okay. Yeah. So I think that is where the potential exists, and there is the government is giving a lot of emphasis towards this bio CNG, and we see that it is today there are about 12 plants which are operational, but there is a projection that it will go to I think they are talking about roughly, if I remember correctly, about 30% of the CNG being consumed coming from the bio CNG. So I think this is something which is going to be very, very important. So there is a big push towards it, and this is a carbon negative fuel. So this is what I believe is very, very important. And of course, the expansion of the CNG is definitely is there. Now we talked about ethanol, and I think again, the Honorable Prime Minister had announced that we will move towards ethanol in a big way. And 2025, he has announced that we will move towards E20. Industry, including Maruti Suzuki, has worked with the government, with the test agencies, with the various government departments, including ETAuto, and a roadmap has been prepared. We will go towards E10 by 2022. Already all our vehicles are compliant to E10 as far as the material is concerned. Of course, the fact is that, in last about 18 months or 2 years back, the 4.5% of the fuel was being blended with ethanol. Today, it's roughly about 8.5%. So the oil industry has confirmed, along with the government, that by 2022, we'll have 10%. And slowly from 2023 onwards, they will start distributing E20 fuel. So we as industry have decided that we will make all our vehicles compatible in terms of material for the E20. However, we are also looking at how we can also calibrate because E20 we will have a higher octane rating, so we can get some benefit of the fuel efficiency if we go to the because of the higher octane rating. Why I say that is because you all will be aware that ethanol has a lower calorific value, and so therefore the fuel efficiency gets impacted by 6 to 7% if we with E20 fuel. So we need to give benefit to the customer, and for doing that we'll have to recalibrate the engines. So that's one thing which we are all we are already on plan. The other thing which we should be looking at is the flex fuel vehicle, and that's again about availability. About 1,000 crore liters of ethanol is required by 2025 in order to meet the E20 requirement from 2025 onwards. And the government has given a roadmap and said very clearly that we will be able to meet that E20 requirement, and so auto industry will be making sure that our customers don't have an issue as far as the E20 compliance is concerned. Yes, there is one point which should be kept in mind, and it's important to understand that there is a a vehicle park which is having vehicles which are either E0 or E10 compliant.
So that is where
And
that
how
is
do
what
we make
was running in my mind when you were talking about E20. What happens to those when they go for a refill at the petrol pump?
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing which we need to be cautious about. Industry is working with the test agencies and with oil companies to test for the vehicles, whether what kind of impact would be there of the E10, of E20 on the E10 vehicles. We have to change the materials of the fuel lines for E20, and also, as I said, calibration is required. But for the existing vehicle park, the fuel hoses and all, they may get eroded, and that should not should not lead to any trouble for the customer. And this is a concern point which we have flagged, and we are working with the government and see. There are two options. One is, can we do parallel dispensing of the E10, also continue from 2025 for some period of time, maybe say up to 2030 or something like that, or till an end of life of the current vehicle park, and then switch over 100%. Labeling is another thing. Education of the customer is important. So all of these, I think we need to all come together and do this. And coming to the flex fuel part of it, again, it's about availability of the flex fuel. There is certain parts of India have a surplus ethanol, and so therefore there may be a possibility of giving flex fuel vehicles. One thing need to be kept in mind is that vehicles in India are portable. They move from one place to the other, and you should be able to beat everywhere. And so therefore, industry had always been working on one fuel, one nation kind of a theory. So with BS6 that has happened. So I think if flex fuel is required, then I think it would be important to make it available pan India, and some vehicles would definitely would come in if the fuel visibility is seen and the customer acceptance is there. If that is there, definitely we'll work towards that. There is a huge change as far as the powertrain is concerned. If we have to move towards,
what are the investments that I want to understand? What are the investments that the industry, automakers like Maruti, will have to make at the powertrain level and also in the overall supply chain? Could you throw some light on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think there will be a lot of changes in the powertrain, because of the corrosive nature of the ethanol. We need to, do some kind of intervention for every part which is there, which is going to come in contact with the fuel, which is including the, piston, the cylinder block, cylinder head, injectors. The fuel rail will have to be heated, and so on and so forth. So everything would need a change. So in a way, it is a new engine development, so to speak. And also, till date, nobody in the world has a BS6 flex fuel. Brazil is currently running at BS4 level of flex fuel, and they will be moving towards BS5 in 2022, and maybe more stringent maybe in 2025. But having said that, we believe that there is a lot of potential because again of the carbon neutrality or the carbon negativeness of the fuel. And that is something which I think is important. And therefore, if we have a very clear roadmap of this, I think auto industry will be definitely motivated to do that. That's number one. Number two, benefit in terms of customer, in terms of because if you are adding ethanol, the fuel pricing has to also match with that, because definitely if you are blending fuel, customers should see some merit. And also the fact that there will be a reduction in the fuel efficiency, that needs to be compensated to the customer in a way, even though the fuel is going to be carbon neutral. So I think these three need to be studied in a little bit more detail. The development of the powertrain needs to be looked at, and then our possible timelines we need to work towards. Based on the availability of the fuel and the customer acceptance.
And also,
definitely, I think there is a lot
in terms of the further impact on the fuel efficiencies as compared to, let's say, E20, which itself there will be a drop compared to E10. At the flex fuel technology, a powertrain with flex fuel technology, what kind of a further drop can be expected?
Well, it could go to maybe about 30% impact on.
Over E20?
E10 is about 3%, progressively it will increase. So there is some impact which need to be recouped to the customer in terms of what he is going to shell out as per liter cost.
From an engineering perspective, are the efforts or the investments required? First of all, would it be possible to bring it to the level of, let's say, the gasoline engine fuel efficiency now? And even if yes, would the investment be significantly higher in the sense that it could perhaps offset the gains?
Clearly say that, but I think definitely from an engineering perspective, we will not be able to recover this. So very little can be done, because once you have, we'll have to the octane rating will go up, but beyond that, it will not go beyond certain thing. And so inherently the fuel is going to impact the fuel efficiency in a way. So that needs to be recouped through the commercial aspect also in a way. And world over, especially in Brazil, there is because of the carbon neutral or the carbon negative nature of the ethanol, there is carbon credits which are created for the industry. And so that's something which we have also requested the government, and that's something which we will look at going forward. Because when we look at carbon neutrality, then we need to look at all the vectors and all the aspects of well to wheel, or from any aspect from the field, farmer's field to the consumer, and in a way. So whatever is the merit which is there, that merit, the credit and the debit needs to be kind of looked at in a way, so that we can kind of look at this in a more holistic manner, I would say.
Okay, Raman-san, that was about alternative fuels, including flex fuels, and the kind of impact it could make in the industry's, or the kind of role they could play in the industry's journey towards net carbon neutrality. One part I'm very curious to understand from you in terms of the hybrid technology. You have mentioned about, you have named hybridization as one of the strategies for Maruti Suzuki. But there's also a viewpoint within the industry that perhaps the pure EV technology, namely the BEV technology, has advanced so much that perhaps in many cases, even from a commercial viability of hybridization has been reduced, and because of the advancement made in the pure EV side.
Yeah, I think there are, how I look at it also is that it's important to look at what is the end objective in a way, and what we need to do for India, because India is very, very diverse, both from demographic as well as from other aspects in terms of the incomes and affordability perspective. What is important for electric vehicle is definitely the range, number two, and more importantly, the affordability of that. Because from a running cost perspective, there is no match as far as that is concerned. And the third thing, and also one more significant aspect, is the charging. And where do you charge? If you look at, about 55 to 60% of the vehicles currently in the vehicle park are parked on the road in India. Now, we need to, see how can we make charging accessible to those vehicles. That's number one. Second is distribution and ensuring availability of charging infrastructure in the condominiums or in the offices or in the malls or on the highways, so that the range anxiety issue is taken care of, and we should be able to quickly charge, go about this and not have any issues. So I think that's the other thing which we need to do. And that's where the challenge is. So definitely, if you look at from a hybrid perspective, it's a kind of a self-charging vehicle. it is using whatever energy is coming out, and it is, which is getting wasted, reusing it and improving the overall efficiency of the vehicle and the fuel efficiency of the vehicle in a way. So the strong hybrid will give a very low CO2, so to speak. Of course, there will be dual powertrains. There will be electric motor also. Battery is different. Battery is smaller, which is the larger component of the EV. So it's again, what we should be doing with the 60 to 70% of the balanced vehicles to improve the fuel efficiency. And do we have an intervention for that? And till the time the infrastructure and the EV infrastructure, comes up for charging, we should be very clear the direction. Right. And I also believe we did talk about hydrogen in some way, we had, and that's one dimension which is being talked about. And world over, Japan, China, and India are talking about hydrogen economy. Hydrogen requires also the infrastructure for dispensing, and it is a couple of levels higher than the CNG infrastructure in terms of the pressure at which the hydrogen is dispensed. Also, the cost of acquisition of the fuel cell itself is today very high.
And you require the source or the production of hydrogen. I mean, the color of that source.
When we are today talking about carbon neutrality, and that's the topic of discussion, unless you are having green hydrogen, it doesn't really make sense. So one of the things which is being talked about today is that well-to-wheel concept for calculating the CO2, whether it is for an electric vehicle, whether it is for a hybrid vehicle, or whether it is for an ICE vehicle or any vehicle, or CNG. I think that is something which we need to look at. There are two aspects which are there. One is about the tailpipe emission, and the second is about the what is the CO2, which is the bigger topic, which is also there. So both have to be balanced. And how do we find that balance? And how do we find the balance for the customer, which is using about 20 million two-wheelers a year and about 3 million passenger cars a year? Mobility is required, and how do we make that mobility change? And so ultimately, it is going to be how we are looking at moving people from one point to the other and making it affordable, comfortable, convenient, and easy access, including the last mile connectivity. As long as we are today making passenger cars, somebody is making four-wheelers or two-wheelers. But the fact of the matter is, what it is going to evolve into is going to be a mobility solutions provider. Everybody is going to provide that mobility solution. And as the change happens in this connected and in this current digital and electrified way, looking at carbon neutral and so on and so forth, various new types of mobility solutions are going to be looked at, definitely, and they are going to evolve. Use cases are going to come up, and India has to find its own unique use cases, looking at the energy basket, looking at what we need to what kind of outcome we want to do, and how much money we want to spend on what intervention, and what is the benefit to the ultimately and the big picture would be benefit to the customer also, and affordability for the customer, for him to make that change, whether he has to move from a bicycle to a metro, or whether he has to move to a transport like a bus, or whatever is comfortable, convenient, affordable, easy, make him go from point A to point B. That solution is required.
Right. And so
looking at carbon neutral at the back of it.
Absolutely. And so from your context, I mean, from in the context of Maruti Suzuki's roadmap, so after CNG, would the hybrid be the next big thing in your portfolio? Would it have a significant presence as a powertrain technology in your portfolio?
We have said that, and when if you would recall, Mission Green Million in 2020 Auto Expo.
I recall.
We had talked about that in the next, what we have done in the last decade, we'll do it in half the time, and so that's the target. And there we had talked about that we would be definitely improving the ICE engine technology. We would be looking at electrification of the powertrain from mild hybrid, including strong hybrid, and also looking at a full EV as a basket coming from Maruti. And so that's what we are working on.
Of course, all these interventions would really pave the road towards Maruti Suzuki's progression to be a carbon neutral organization. But for that to happen, the entire supply chain also has to kind of go the same line. So achieving carbon neutrality in the overall manufacturing supply chain, what are the challenges and opportunities you see towards achieving that goal in India?
Yeah, I think the couple of things, from a product perspective, the RRR, is something which is very important. Reduce, recycle, reuse is something which is very important. And we are looking at a very stringent target as far as we are concerned, looking at that going forward. And we had started our journey as far as the ELV program, end of life vehicles, when we started with the A-Star in 2008. Since then, we have been looking at materials and checking for that, including asbestos-free, and looking at the various harmful elements in the materials is one aspect of the green supply chain, so to speak. The second aspect is the manufacturing itself, and today, Maruti Suzuki is having doing a lot of efforts as far as energy conservation and water conservation and waste management within the plant itself. The same is being also, being talked about by our suppliers too. And if you look at, Maruti Suzuki today has, I think, just recently we had launched one of our, solar plants. And in that, I think the solar plant today, the total capacity of the solar plant is now almost 27 megawatts we are having. Our suppliers are using solar of about 58 megawatts. I think this is something which is very important to understand that, these kind of efforts by the supply chain, by Maruti itself are, something which we need to look at. We are also looking at how do we, transport our vehicles. Using railways also is one aspect which we are looking at, how to reduce the CO2. So the vehicle dispatch by the railways in the past 7 years has led to almost 3,800 metric tons of reduction of CO2, so this is one other thing which we are also looking at. And, and the other thing is we recently, just 2 days back, the scrapping center of the Maruti Suzuki has also been, inaugurated by the Honorable Minister of Road Transport. So end of life is very, very important for us. How do we recycle? And 100% of the steel is to be recycled, and other materials too. Now that we have this scrapping center, and we will be looking at more of this. And this is something which is very, very important. As a from a circular economy perspective, we need to look at all the aspects of the manufacturing from start to finish till end of life, and see the carbon footprint and how can we reduce that. And these are some of the interventions which are being done, including using LED lamps and using only daylight only, and those kind of things. Many interventions are being done so that you can reduce the energy consumption in the plant.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the effort.
All these interventions, of course, will contribute towards reducing the carbon footprint and thereby help in the journey towards carbon neutrality. But talking about the 3 Rs, just curious to understand, have you set a target about, especially on the 2 parameters of recyclability and the level of reuse of parts right at the beginning of the, let's say, development cycle of a product?
How
much is it, and have you set any target
as such? There is no target in India today. In the US, in the EU, there is a target of over 90%, and we are somewhere there already as far as that is concerned. So I think from that perspective, that from a recycling is there. Now the reuse portion is something, unless we are making it into a proper effort, and it's a in an organized way, only you can then only measure it. So unless you have these kind of scrapping centers, you will not be able to measure some of these interventions. But from a material input perspective, definitely the intention is that it should be able to be done. So marking the parts and ensuring that you can, and you have all the elements which are mapped, and so that one can declare that is the step 1 which we are doing, and ensuring that all our parts are going to meet that. And then from then onwards is going to be the next step. When all of this, the ecosystem gets developed, then you can actually start measuring it and then saying that, okay, this is what we are looking at, and this is how we can set the target for India.
So at Maruti, the recyclability level is at about 90% or so?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. And also at Maruti Suzuki, have you kind of set a goal in terms of kind of a year by which you would like to reach the to be carbon neutral as an overall organization, or working towards that?
You see, this is country specific, and we will have to follow the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of 2070 as far as India is concerned. Globally, Suzuki and Suzuki in Japan would have a different target, definitely, because they would follow what is there in Japan. We in Maruti Suzuki in India will have to follow what is there in India, but the effort is the same. The vectors are all aligned in a way. It's only the timing which will be different.
By 2070, if not earlier.
Yes.
Okay. Coming to that, we are coming to the end of the discussion, Raman-san. In all this, while there is no silver bullet, of course, we clearly know about that. But in terms of the role of regulations, in terms of having clear-cut, sustainable policies, we think there's more room for kind of more interventions there, improvement there, for India to be able to play its role in tackling the global environmental crisis better. We know the number of cities that we have, from India in the list of world's most polluted cities. So towards that, I think the onus is more on India to have such regulations and very clearly drafted policies.
Yeah, the transport sector is the most highly regulated, industry today in India. And when we look at from the air quality perspective, there are many other constituents of that. I think a multi-pronged approach for that, including for the transport sector. And as far as transport is concerned, the BS6 phase 2 has already going to come in 2023. So from that perspective, the industry is moving step by step to make the tailpipe emissions more stringent. And now the real world driving emissions will also come in 2023. That will make it more stringent. So whatever is there on the cycle is what you will see on the road also. So that stringency is coming. Having said that, from a electrification perspective, the fuel efficiency improvements which are there for the CO2 anyway is going to also help in a way to improve both the emissions as well as the CO2 going forward. Of course, the emission limits remain the same. And having said that, as and when the Euro 7 comes in and India adopts it, that would make things a little bit more stringent from a tailpipe emission perspective. But I believe that the other interventions for the other areas also are important, because even if the transport may be constituting maybe 20% or 25%, or some studies 30% also. If that becomes zero also, but the rest of the pollutants also have to have to come down significantly, and so those mandating the norms may be there, but I think it's more of an enforcement there, how to enforce that and how to make that the availability of clean fuel for everybody, including for cooking and other things, are also very, very important aspects for India. And all those things need to be kept in mind when we are looking at this whole approach towards both air quality as well as the CO2 reduction. And we need to find the balance for India, definitely, and look at the interventions and the energy mix for that.
Indeed, Raman-san, the balance, striking the balance is key. A multi-pronged approach for across sectors, and also the level of enforcement and adherence to the set laws are absolutely critical. On that note, Raman-san, really thank you very much for yet another very interesting and insightful conversation. I'm sure our viewers,
thank you so much.
I'm sure our viewers would also enjoy it as much as I did and find it valuable. So viewers, thank you very much for logging into ETAuto and watching another very interesting episode of Target Net Zero. Till we meet again, take care and goodbye.